The United States has a drug problem. In the last decade, it's killed nearly 400,000 people, 4 lakh people. And the deadliest drug in this mix is fentanyl. It's potent and it is taking over the country. But who is to blame for this crisis? Donald Trump says it is China. So he wants to slap new tariffs on China, 10% to start with.
So we lose 300,000 people a year to drugs entering from Mexico. And if they don't stop this poison from flooding into our country, and they can stop it by not accepting it from China, and I'm doing the same thing with China, we're going to tariff the hell out of them.
Trump says Beijing has not done enough to curb the flow of illegal drugs into the US, especially fentanyl, and that is why he wants to impose tariffs. China has obviously denied this charge, adding that tariffs will impact bilateral ties.
I think the first thing most for us to do perhaps is to continue the good relation and momentum between our two countries and see what we can do together to promote for global trade instead of compromising our respective national interest and our common interest. Thank you.
So what exactly is fentanyl? Fentanyl is a powerful synthetic opioid. It was developed as an anesthetic. Hospitals use it to treat pain medically. It is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine, far more powerful than heroin, and that makes it extremely dangerous if overused. Also, you can easily get addicted to it. Right now, fentanyl is at the center of America's drug crisis. In 2023, 75,000 people died due to fentanyl overdose. It's the worst drug crisis in American history, affecting almost an entire generation. And where is this fentanyl coming from? It first arrived in the US in the 1970s. The drug was called China White. Its consumption boomed in the 2010s. And the US says that China is the primary source of the drug. When this crisis exploded, Washington cracked down, so drug cartels changed tack. They now transport chemicals from China, chemicals that are used to make fentanyl. And these chemicals are transported by air, disguised as gadgets, even shopping merchandise. These boxes pass through customs, no one bats an eyelid. From there, they are sent to Mexican drug labs. And this is where they're turned into fentanyl. Those chemicals are turned into fentanyl in Mexico, and that fentanyl is shipped across the border to the US. It's a complicated supply chain, China to Mexico to the US, but one that escapes all scrutiny. So the drugs are flowing in from Beijing. Why isn't the US stopping them? Well, they've tried. The Americans tried to work with the Chinese to deal with the problem. In 2019, China put all forms of fentanyl on a list of controlled substances. Basically, their use and sale was monitored heavily. It was a breakthrough for Trump in his first term. He was still the president then. And things were looking fine until 2022. But that's when Nancy Pelosi decided to visit Taiwan. 2022. She was the House Speaker, the US House Speaker at the time. She visited Taiwan and that angered China. So they suspended all communication with the Americans, including on narcotics. In 2023, US President Joe Biden met Xi Jinping. He restarted the conversation. They may be working together again on this, but now China does not think that this is their problem. China believes that the fentanyl crisis is America's problem and a problem of America's own making. Donald Trump, of course, disagrees, so he has announced tariffs and his team is out for blood. Take Howard Lutnick, for example. He will be Trump's Commerce Secretary. In October, he said that China was attacking America with fentanyl. And his solution? 200% tariffs on Chinese goods. This man will be the Commerce Secretary. It tells you how Trump's team is approaching this. They're looking at other measures too, like sanctioning banks doing business with drug sellers, mass sanctions on drug companies, cyber warfare against cartels, and treating this crisis like the war on terror. Basically, nothing really is off the table. And that means more pressure on the US-China relationship, which is already under a lot of strain. Things only began stabilizing in 2023, and now Donald Trump's sanctions could put the ties back on life support.